Now I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to the United States of America, Shinsuke J. Sugiyama. He was just appointed the new Japanese ambassador this past March, and we are honored to welcome him to Texas for some special remarks. Please welcome Ambassador Sugiyama.
Well, thank you for your nice introduction. Here comes newly born, I think 6 weeks old ambassador. This is the second day since my wife Yoko and I got into Dallas airport. Governor Omura and Secretary of State Pablo, who is yet to come, and the distinguished mayors, Mrs. Inoue Irene, and Vice Chair of Toyota Hayaka, and my friends, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Indeed, I feel very much privileged to be given this honor to speak up at the first certain moment to open this really important and gigantic Japan-Texas Economic Summit meeting. By the way, somebody told me that when Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh of the United Kingdom, once said, when he was opening some exhibition or some facilities or whatever, he said, "I declare this thing open, whatever it is." Oh, well, totally unlike Duke of Edinburgh, I do know exactly what I am opening up this morning, and that's why I wanted to be here at this economic summit meeting because of the importance. I totally support what you are doing. By the way, last evening, before I got into this beautiful town, very late evening or early morning, last night, I was up at the Rayburn House office building on Capitol Hill speaking to the US-Japan caucus. The caucus only started in 2014, and already it's the second largest country focused caucus with, I was amazed to be told, over 100 members of the lawmakers' houses and senators. In fact, Congressman Castro of the Texas 20th Congressional District is the co-chair, and he was one of the speakers from the podium last evening. As a matter of fact, they are in the midst of votings. By the way, yesterday was a Monday, so the first day of the week, they seem to have gotten started in a very busy week. So the people just come and go and that sort, and, voting, and after voting, they just came back to the decision room and something, but I saw quite a number of turn up of the lawmakers, both two houses. And he said something very good thing as a co-chair of the US-Japan caucus, only after 4 years or something, but the somewhat deep and economic ties as well as the securities and something which I'm going to just touch upon this morning at the beginning of this important summit. One of the things I told the members from the podium yesterday night was that before I left Tokyo in March to become a new envoy to this country, I had been reading about the divisive atmosphere in Washington, D.C. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I got into town of D.C. or everywhere else in the United States of America. But the thing I've learned firsthand immediately over just a fortnight or something, that both the Republicans and Democrats alike attitudes towards Japan is indeed bipartisan. I don't see where one party is more pro-Japanese or anti-Japanese than the other. which I think is very healthy for Japan's relation to the Congress and to the whole country of United States of America. I think the reason for the increased interest in Japan in Congress as well as in the entire United States of America is you. The people outside Washington who are creating the economic ties that are binding our economies closer and closer together. You're creating jobs and binding our economies closer and closer together. You're really stimulating economic activity and deepening the day-to-day connections between Tokyo and Washington, not only Tokyo and Washington, all Japan and the United States of America. It is no longer just Washington and Tokyo creating a good relationship two countries enjoy. It is Plano, Texas, where last year Toyota moved its headquarters, and I've been told that something more than 4,000 jobs, and somebody lived in that, probably one of the main campuses in the whole sort of big country of United States of America. It's Grapevine, Texas, just north of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, where Kubota Tractor relocated its offices. It's Waller, Texas, where Daikin opened the Daikin Texas Technology Park, which is the third largest manufacturing facility in all of North America and the fifth largest one in the whole world. It is Irving, Texas, where you can find the headquarters of NEC, which provides a fingerprint identification system as well as face recognition system, the number one identification technologies in the world to various security points all over the United States. Oh, not only limited to the States, but they are doing so some important places like Middle East and elsewhere. By the way, the chairperson of NEC was kind enough to stay at my residence until a few days ago, something for 2 or 3 nights. And then we dined together and we discussed things, how much we would be able to go forward even further. And I would use other examples if I were speaking in a different state. I met with the governor of Virginia and the governor of Maryland together with their first ladies. Obviously, these two states are neighbors to DC. And there is such a wonderful welcome mapped out for Japanese companies. There's an infrastructure of state and local support for closer business ties, and this summit is evidence of that. As a result of all this, Japan invested, I'm told, over 45 billion US dollars, which means American jobs. In fact, last year, Japan was the #1 foreign job creator in the United States of America. Now, there are other reasons our two countries are becoming closer. I think Americans increasingly realize shared values such as democracy, peace, human rights, market economies, and the rule of law. Shared values, presumably, is perhaps more important side of the coin, even rather than close economic ties, as I have been touching upon. Particularly under these circumstances when immediate threat seems to be coming directly from North Korea, about which North-South leaders are already met. And I've been told that North Korean dictator seems to have just wrapped up a meeting with the Chinese leader in Dalian. Before I came here, I read through the readout, and seems to me the things concerning North, which is a direct threat to us, not only Japan, not only ROK, not only East Asia, but whole as an international community, including you guys here, and New York and London and elsewhere, is at the very moment of a historical kind of breakthrough or not breakthrough. I think our alliance is becoming more integrated, and US and Japanese forces have been made great strides in their relationship. And as I said repeatedly, under this particular circumstance, this is indeed more and more important so. I think the pivot toward Asia, unsettling events by China, and I said, I don't think I'm going to just book down into details about North Korean threat of the weapons of mass destruction, including nuke and chemical bios, and all ranges of missiles. And for us, the important subject matter is release of all abductees. And maybe 70th anniversary of the end of the World War II, everything. All have been factors in bringing us this much closer. And now is everything perfect, exactly as I would want it. Is this really so? I have to say, not necessarily. For instance, Japan, as my leader, Prime Minister Abe, has been repeatedly saying to the public and to your president, that we do believe, of course, if US comes back to the TPP, I think that is in the interest of US, in the interest of us, in the interest of all Southern Asia Pacific, and the interest of the international community, knowing that the US president does not necessarily agree with me. At the recent summit meeting at Mar-a-Lago, which I joined, to welcome my leader and the First Lady to be in the summit room, both sides agreed to start free, fair, reciprocal trade deal talks. By the way, Mr. President did say reciprocal 3 times in public before the press conference audience. We have taken careful note of the Trump administration's concern on bilateral trade, and we hope that through these talks, we will be able to find somehow or other a mutual beneficial way out. But at this juncture, I know the people like Governor Omura, I'm told this morning when I had a breakfast with him, is going to speak up about what he sees and what he thinks about more in detail about economic cooperation ties. But I think I can just only tell you 1 or 2 things. You say 68 billion deficit in terms of the bilateral trade. Some say 65, some say even more than that. But something like slightly less than 70. I actually once was stationed some 30 years ago or something as a young diplomat in Washington, D.C. dealing with the US-Japan trade. That was a time when they say Japan's trade surplus or your deficit is 50 billion. But that was a time when the ratio of 50 billion is more than half. Now, currently 65 or 68 or whatever is in terms of the percentage rate of the all sort of trade figure, we show only 8.6 or something, much less than over 50% in 1980s or early 1990s. And one more thing, I'm sure this is something that Governor from Aichi Prefecture, where Toyota's headquarters is located, about motor vehicle. Yes, when I was here as a young diplomat some 30 years ago or something like 4 million units of Japanese-made cars were exported as complete cars, Japan-made, while slightly over 500,000 were manufactured in the States by Japanese companies using American workers and utilizing American parts. So the ratio is 1 to 8. That was 1990s, the late 1980s and the beginning of 1990s or something. Now, I'm told that the Japanese car manufactured in this country by utilizing the American workers and American parts are up to something like just less than 4 million units, while the number of exports as a complete car from Japan to the market of the United States of America is much less than 2 million units. So the ratio is 1 to 2. If not 1 to 8, but the trend is totally the other side. I'm not trying to book down into details about these certain figures. As I told you repeatedly, presumably Governor Omura is better in position to tell you whole sorts of things later. President Trump is quite focused on jobs, and as I mentioned, last year Japan was the #1 foreign job creator in the United States of America. So we have the basis for an even closer economic relationship in the years ahead. I tell you, I am really hopeful. And that is why I wanted to come and personally thank you for work you are doing, which is making the work that I do so much easier. When the president was in Japan in November, there was a photo in the papers of him giving the prime minister a first bump. I think that might be a good analogy for their relationship, a reflection of the trust and friendship they have developed over the last 1.5 years. Indeed, I saw that when I was in Mar-a-Lago, that their personal ties couldn't be better. I think the overall Japan-US relationship, as represented by you in this room, is just as that much strong. So, in concluding, just let me say that Japan's commitment to what you are doing here in Texas remains strong and even presumably, hopefully, stronger. And my embassy and myself will continue to support you together with the Consul General Office in any way we can, whatever we can, whoever we can deal with the President's knowledge of what I am saying in front of you guys. Once again, thank you indeed for you to invite me and declare not something as the Duke of Edinburgh did say, that I did declare this important thing open. Thank you very much indeed for your attention. Thank you.